Good evening. Welcome to part 20 of our Middle-earth-inspired series, Do Shadows Remember? Let's begin. The sky above the companions stretched wide and pale, its dull light casting a muted glow over the barren expanse as they followed the faintly glowing runes embedded in the ground. The path they tread upon seemed to hum faintly, a soft vibration that grew stronger with every step, as though urging them onward to some unseen destination. Orlen adjusted his pack, his hand brushing against the relics in his pocket, their warmth steady and reassuring amidst the growing chill of the air. The terrain around them had shifted once more, the jagged edges of the ruins giving way to smooth, curving stones, their surfaces carved with intricate patterns that seemed to spiral endlessly inward. Cyrana led the group, her keeper's staff casting a faint golden glow that merged with the light of the runes, her expression resolute but tinged with unease. "This place is too quiet," she murmured, her voice cutting through the stillness. "It feels as though the land itself is holding its breath." Adric knelt by a cluster of stone fragments, his staff resting against his shoulder as he traced the carvings with his fingers, his brow furrowed in thought. "These patterns," he said softly, his voice tinged with awe. "They're not just decorative, they're a language meant to convey more than words. It's as if the stones themselves are trying to speak." Calen lingered at the rear, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon where the faint shapes of distant ruins loomed like sentinels against the pale sky. "If they're speaking, they're not saying anything good," he muttered, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "We've seen what silence like this leads to." Orlen felt a flicker of unease at Calen's words, the weight of their truth settling heavily over him. The shadows that had pursued them through the forgotten realms had grown quieter in recent days, their presence no longer a constant threat, but an unshakable weight that lingered just out of sight. The runes beneath their feet flared suddenly, their light brightening to a sharp, vivid gold before fading back to their steady glow. The hum beneath the ground deepened, resonating through the stones and the companion's bones with an intensity that made Orlen stagger slightly. "It's guiding us somewhere," he said quietly, his voice trembling with both awe and apprehension. Cyrana glanced back at him, her expression calm but questioning. "The question is whether it's guiding us to answers," she said thoughtfully, "or to more questions." The path began to slope downward, the ground beneath their feet smooth and solid as it led them into a narrow canyon carved with intricate spirals and patterns that seemed to twist and shift in the dim light. Orlen felt a chill run through him as he gazed at the carvings, their shapes exuding a sense of both beauty and unease, as though they were alive and watching. The air grew cooler as they descended, the faint scent of damp earth mingling with the metallic tang of ancient magic. Adric paused to study a particularly large carving etched into the canyon wall, its spiraling patterns resolving into the shape of a massive eye that seemed to glimmer faintly in the staff's light. "This isn't just a passage," he said, softly, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "It's a threshold. Whatever lies beyond this point, it was meant to be protected." Cyrana nodded slowly, her grip on the keeper's staff tightening as she stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the faintly glowing runes that continued to guide their path. "Then we proceed carefully," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "If this is a threshold, we have to assume it wasn't meant to be crossed easily." The canyon opened suddenly into a vast chamber, its walls rising high into the dim light above, their surfaces covered in spiraling patterns that pulsed faintly in the still air. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone monolith, its surface smooth and unbroken except for the single spiraling symbol that glowed faintly at its center. Orlen felt his breath catch as he stepped closer, the warmth of the relics in his pocket surging as though in recognition of the monolith's light. The hum beneath the ground deepened, the vibration resonating through the chamber with a melodic rhythm that seemed to echo from the monolith itself. "This is it," Cyrana said softly, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of the forgotten realms, the place where everything converges." Adric approached the monolith cautiously, his staff glowing brightly as he studied the spiraling symbol that pulsed with a steady, rhythmic light. "It's a key," he said thoughtfully, his voice tinged with wonder. "A key to something far older than these ruins. But the question is, what does it unlock?" Orlen felt a wave of unease wash over him as the monolith's light flared suddenly, its spiraling symbol shifting and twisting into new patterns that seemed to move with a deliberate, almost sentient purpose. The air grew heavier, the hum deepening into a low, resonant tone that filled the chamber with a quiet, undeniable power. Calen's hand tightened on the hilt of his sword as his sharp eyes darted toward the shadows that lingered at the edges of the light. "We're being watched," he said darkly, his voice cutting through the stillness. "Whatever brought us here isn't done with us yet." Cyrana stepped closer to the monolith, her expression calm but resolute as she raised the keeper's staff, its light merging with the spiraling symbol that pulsed faintly at its center. The monolith's glow brightened, flooding the chamber with a golden light that sent long shadows racing across the walls. Orlen felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on him as he reached out instinctively, his hand brushing against the monolith's smooth surface. A wave of energy surged through him, and the world dissolved into light and shadow, the vision coming unbidden and vivid. He saw the forgotten realms as they had once been, vast and thriving, their magic a living force that connected every ruin, every relic, and every soul within their reach. And he saw the shadow that had come for them, relentless and consuming, its purpose still shrouded in mystery. The vision faded, leaving Orlen breathless and trembling, his thoughts swirling with the weight of what he had seen. "It's not just a key," he said softly, his voice trembling. "It's a question, and we don't know how to answer it." The chamber pulsed with an almost tangible energy as the monolith's light filled the air, casting spiraling patterns across the smooth walls. Orlen stepped back from the towering stone, his hand trembling slightly as the vision's intensity lingered in his thoughts. Cyrana stood at the base of the monolith, the keeper's staff held steady in her grip as its glow merged with the golden light emanating from the stone's spiraling symbol. "It's asking something of us," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the low, melodic hum that resonated from the monolith. "But it isn't speaking in words, it's pulling at the magic of this place, trying to connect." Adric knelt beside the base of the monolith, his staff resting against his shoulder as his fingers brushed over the carvings etched faintly into its surface. "These runes," he said softly, his voice filled with awe, "they're older than anything we've seen. They don't just guide, they record, like a map written into the fabric of the stone. Whatever this monolith is, it's holding something vast, something far beyond this land." The air thickened with an almost electric tension, and the spiraling patterns on the monolith shifted again, their light flickering like firelight caught in a breeze. Orlen's chest tightened as he watched the runes ripple, their movement deliberate and unsettling, as though they were alive and watching. Cyrana raised the keeper's staff higher, its light flaring brightly as she stepped closer to the monolith, her expression calm but resolute. "It's waiting for us to respond," she said thoughtfully, her tone steady despite the unease that filled the air. Calen stood near the edge of the light, his sharp eyes fixed on the shadows that gathered at the chamber's perimeter, their forms twisting and shifting like smoke. "Whatever it's waiting for, we don't have much time," he muttered, his voice low but firm. "The shadows aren't just watching anymore, they're moving." The companions turned sharply as the hum deepened, resonating through the chamber with a rhythmic pulse that seemed to match the movement of the spiraling runes. The shadows at the edge of the light grew denser, their forms coalescing into dark, flickering shapes that crept closer with every passing moment. Adric stood slowly, his staff glowing brightly as the runes along its length flared in response to the monolith's light. "If the monolith is a key, then there must be a way to unlock it," he said thoughtfully, his tone filled with quiet determination. "But the shadows, they're drawn to it too. Whatever it guards, they want it as much as we do." Orlen felt a flicker of unease as the shadows surged forward suddenly, their movements swift and chaotic as they struck against the edges of the light. Calen stepped forward to meet them, his sword flashing in the golden glow as he parried and struck, his movements precise and unyielding. The shadows recoiled briefly, their forms flickering and writhing like smoke, but they pressed forward again, their presence relentless. Cyrana turned sharply, planting the keeper's staff firmly into the ground as its light flared brilliantly, sending a wave of golden energy rippling through the chamber. "We hold them here," she said sharply, her voice commanding. "If the monolith falls, everything it's protecting will fall with it." The spiraling patterns on the monolith flared again, their light surging outward in a wave that seemed to ripple through the chamber and into the air beyond. Orlen felt the warmth of the relics in his pocket grow stronger, their pulse aligning perfectly with the monolith's glow, and a sudden wave of clarity washed over him. "It's not just asking," he said, quickly, his voice trembling with urgency. "It's reaching for something we're holding. The relics, they're a part of it." Adric's eyes widened as he stepped toward the monolith, his staff humming loudly as its runes shimmered in time with the spiraling patterns. "If that's true, then we're not just unlocking the monolith," he said softly, his tone tinged with awe. "We're becoming part of it. The question isn't just what it guards, it's whether we're willing to share in its burden." The air grew colder as the shadows pressed forward again, their dark forms coiling and twisting as they struck against the companions' defenses. Calen moved swiftly to intercept them, his sword flashing in the golden light as he cut through the nearest tendrils of darkness, his movements quick and precise. Cyrana raised the keeper's staff higher, its light merging with the monolith's glow as she turned to face Orlen, her expression calm but questioning. "The relics are yours to carry," she said firmly. "If they're the key to the monolith, then it's your choice to unlock it." Orlen hesitated, his chest tightening as he felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on him. The monolith's spiraling symbol pulsed brightly, its light flooding the chamber as though urging him forward, and he stepped closer, his hand trembling as he reached into his pocket to draw out the relics. The instant his fingers closed around them, the warmth surged through him like a tidal wave, and the world dissolved into light and shadow. He saw the forgotten realms as they had once been, a vast, thriving network of magic and life that stretched far beyond the ruins they had encountered. He saw the monolith as it once was, a beacon of connection and purpose, its light holding the shadows at bay. But he also saw the cost, the sacrifices made to preserve the light, and the questions left unanswered as the shadowed forces encroached. The vision faded, and Orlen staggered slightly, his breath catching as he placed the relics against the spiraling symbol. The monolith's light flared brilliantly, flooding the chamber with a golden glow that sent the shadows recoiling, their dark forms dissolving into the air as the hum softened into a steady, rhythmic vibration. The chamber grew still, the air filled with a quiet, resonant power that seemed to ripple through the ruins beyond. Orlen stepped back from the monolith, his thoughts swirling with the weight of the vision, and Cyrana lowered the keeper's staff, her expression calm but questioning. "What did you see?" she asked softly. Orlen hesitated, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Not answers," he said finally, his tone filled with quiet resolve. "Just more questions. Questions we can't yet understand." The monolith's light steadied, its spiraling patterns resolving into a fixed, glowing design that pulsed gently in the dim chamber. The hum in the air softened to a resonant vibration, as if the ancient structure was catching its breath after millennia of silence. Orlen stepped away from the towering stone, the relics in his hand still warm, their connection to the monolith leaving an ache in his chest that felt more like longing than pain. Cyrana approached cautiously, her keeper's staff dimming as she knelt beside the base of the monolith, her fingers brushing over the now still carvings. "It's quiet," she said softly, her voice filled with cautious wonder. "But not silent. Whatever we've done, the monolith is holding steady, for now." Adric knelt beside her, his staff resting on the smooth ground as his sharp eyes studied the glowing patterns. "We didn't just awaken it," he murmured, his tone thoughtful. "We've aligned it. It's connected to the other ruins, to the spire, and perhaps beyond. But it's not complete. There's more it's asking of us, even doesn't speak." The chamber's walls seemed to breathe with the faint, golden glow cast by the monolith, the spiraling designs etched into the stone, pulsing faintly in rhythm with the hum. Calen lingered at the edge of the light, his sword sheathed but his hand resting on the hilt, his sharp gaze fixed on the shadows that had retreated to the far edges of the chamber. "They're not gone," he said quietly, his voice tinged with unease. "The shadows, they're holding back, but they're watching, waiting." Orlen felt a chill run through him as he turned to face the distant forms lingering in the dimness, their shapes flickering like smoke caught in a breeze. "They didn't follow us here by chance," he said softly, his voice steady despite the tension in his chest. "They're drawn to the monolith, to the relics. They know what's at stake." Cyrana stood slowly, her grip firm on the keeper's staff as she turned to the others, her expression calm but resolute. "If the shadows are waiting, then so are we," she said firmly. "We've stabilized the monolith, but we can't stay here. Whatever this place holds, it's only part of the answer. We have to move forward." Adric nodded, his staff humming faintly as he rose to his feet, his gaze lingering on the spiraling patterns that glowed faintly across the monolith's surface. "The ruins are connected," he said thoughtfully. "If this monolith is a key, then the next step must lie beyond these walls. The network is guiding us. It's pulling us to something greater." The monolith's light flared suddenly, its glow brightening to an intensity that filled the chamber with golden radiance. Orlen shielded his eyes as the air grew warm, the hum rising into a melodic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the stone and water surrounding them. When the light faded, The spiraling patterns on the monolith had shifted, their designs pointing toward a narrow archway that had appeared in the far wall of the chamber. The air beyond the archway shimmered faintly, its surface rippling like the surface of a pool disturbed by an unseen current. "It's not just a door," Cyrana said softly, her voice tinged with awe. "It's a passage, something beyond the forgotten realms." Orlen stepped toward the archway, his heart pounding as the warmth of the relics in his pockets surged, their light flickering faintly in harmony with the glow of the monolith. The shadows that had lingered at the chamber's edges began to stir, their forms shifting and coalescing as they moved closer to the light. Calen drew his sword, its blade catching the faint glow of the monolith as he turned sharply to face the advancing darkness. "They won't let us leave without a fight," he said darkly, his voice steady despite the tension in his stance. Cyrana raised the keeper's staff, its light flaring brightly as she stepped forward, her expression calm but unyielding. "Then we give them one," she said, firmly. The shadows surged forward, their movements swift and chaotic as they struck against the companions' defenses. Calen moved with precision, his sword flashing in the golden light as he cut through the nearest tendrils of darkness, their forms dissolving into the air with a faint echoing wail. Adric stood beside Cyrana, his staff glowing brightly as he muttered a quiet incantation, the runes along its length flaring brilliantly as a wave of light rippled across the chamber, scattering the shadows that crept along the ground. Orlen felt the weight of the relics in his pocket grow heavier, their warmth spreading through him like a quiet reassurance as he turned toward the archway, its shimmering surface calling to him like a whisper in the back of his mind. The battle was brief but fierce, the shadows pressing with relentless determination before finally retreating into the dimness, their forms flickering and dissolving as the companions' light held firm. The chamber grew still once more, the hum of the monolith softening into a steady, rhythmic vibration that resonated through the walls. Cyrana lowered the keeper's staff, her breath steadying as she turned toward the archway, its shimmering surface glowing faintly in the golden light. "This is the way forward," she said, softly, her voice filled with quiet determination. "But it's not just a passage, it's a choice. Whatever lies beyond, we leave the forgotten realms behind." Orlen felt the weight of her words settle heavily over him as he stepped toward the archway, his gaze lingering on the shimmering surface that seemed to ripple like liquid light. The warmth of the relics pulsed faintly in his pocket, their presence a quiet reassurance as he turned to face the others. "We've come this far," he said, softly, his voice steady despite the uncertainty in his chest. "Whatever lies ahead, it's part of the answer, and we're not turning back." Together the companions stepped toward the archway, their steps deliberate and unhurried as the light of the monolith faded behind them, its steady hum a quiet reminder of the journey they had begun. The air grew warmer as they passed through the shimmering surface, the world beyond the forgotten realms opening before them with a brilliance that felt both familiar and unknown.